My mother's name is Ismara, and I felt I had to visit her after the presence who calls himself the Intimate revealed what he wanted of me. I knew this would be hard for her to talk about, but I wanted to know more about my Aunt Karima, her twin sister, who after a head-on crash on a highway and a lingering coma for almost 2 years was finally put to rest by decision of the family. They were identical twins, and I felt it was a loss my mother would never recover from. Karima's life and death were always shrouded in mystery for me, and fairy tale explanations, big parts of it left out, but my mother mourned her still, and I know she blamed the Intimate totally for this loss. The little that I could figure out, this is how she felt. I was hoping that tonight she might reminisce, and I was lucky enough to find her in that kind of mood. And she did. And she told me things that, it just made me feel like I knew my aunt so much better. She told me how close they were, especially in their teens and growing up, how they shared everything and they could almost read each other's minds. And I never really met her. Then, unfortunately, Karima began to lose herself in the world of the Intimate. My mother says she was swept away, and all the closeness, all the laughter, the pillow fights, the fun, the times they shared, they began to separate little by little from each other, and she felt she was pulled more and more away from her. And then what they loved together, to do and to have fun together, it took second importance to a world that my aunt would never admit she even went into. But my mother said she suspected something. And many times it was just as if she were possessed, and she would not admit it. She pretended everything was okay, but my mother was her twin. How could she hide that from her? And she tried every day to get her to open up, to be honest about what was wrong, but it was like fighting a freight train or an oncoming current or a flash flood, and it just began to drown her, and they no longer were in sync. He and his world had captivated her and pulled her down into a rushing stream and a current now that was impossible to stop, and there was no more time for them together. And Karima slept a lot, she said, and she just didn't want to even talk, and she was inactive, so inactive, and before she loved life, she became changed and oddly turned into herself. My mother every day felt she was losing her. They used to love to jog together, to go to art shows, to go to the movies, to go out, to date, to double date. But all of that changed, and all the fun went out of her, and she looked troubled, and every moment she saw her, she wanted to say, "Please, tell me what it is that you have inside." But no, there was no sharing this for her. She lost her art, she lost her will, she lost the joy that was used to shine from her eyes. And then, one night, she walked out into the storm and never returned to consciousness again. My mother almost lost her mind, and all she had left of her sister for those 2 years in the agony of a coma were the memories of their closeness. She said to me, "But Karima, why are you asking me this tonight? Why do you want to know? Oh, please don't tell me you're not having these dreams, are you?" And you know, after seeing and hearing how close they were and how my mother suffered her loss, I just couldn't be honest. I just couldn't tell her that yes, I was, and that yes, I knew who she talked about. And I wanted to reassure her in a way, but even I could not reassure myself. How did I know how this was going to end? I hadn't made a decision. I wasn't sure I would even go back in ever again. This was going round and round in my mind, but I didn't want to trouble my poor mother. She had lost her sister, and I know if I started to tell her the truth tonight, she would feel she was about to lose me. I walked along the beach on the way home, and I thought about all of this. I thought about what he asked of me. He asked of me to bring a twin in, like my mother and her sister, not like them, for she would not be a separate entity. He had asked me to bring her into part of me. I know that she was sentenced to her own death, to her annihilation if I didn't do this, but how could I do this? I couldn't make this decision tonight, and really, there was only one thing that I did know as I walked along the beach. We, all three of us, my aunt, and myself and her, we were called Karima, and we were joined in a destiny that I did not know the outcome.